This episode of Geek-men and the Masters of the Thunder Nerds is brought to you by our sponsors, Super 7, Nerd Gear, SWA Sabers, and the Madness Entertainment Group. All right, how we doing today, Zombie?
I'm good. How are you, Dustin?
Yeah, I'm excited for the guest we have backstage. We're gonna bring him on, and let's get this underway here.
Let's welcome Quaid to It's Frickin' Figures.
That's right.
And frickin' figures it is. He's got the hat on and everything. Seriously, I should have brought mine. What the heck am I doing?
I came prepared.
Exactly. Yeah. Mine is. I quite literally, we cosplayed as one of our figures for Legion's Con, and the only thing that kept it on my head was the big old mask I had, because the hat is bigger than my ego. I mean, it's gigantic.
Yeah, this one's pretty big too.
Yeah,
I mean,
Tricorn is not a joke. It might be standard for all I know, and those hats are just huge.
I almost went full mask for it though. I've got a
Oh man, yeah. One of these days we'll have to get Deathmoid himself on the stream. See how that goes.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Definitely.
I know we have someone on the Madness team who they like to interview the characters of whatever campaign is happening. So she'll interview someone who's like a space monkey, and they are acting like a space monkey, and then she'll interview a little goblin guy that we call Crom. On the network, so we have Crom that runs around here and talks, and so she just has fun. It's called Karen. I can't think of the name. Why am I blanking on the name?
Killer Karen.
Killer Karen.
Everybody
Thank you.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. So yeah.
That sounds like a blast, in my opinion. I'm thrilled to be here with you guys. I'm so glad that you're sitting down, taking the time, and letting me share about these cool pirates with you, because I never get tired of talking about it.
Yeah.
And I never get tired of seeing people's faces light up when the prototypes are in front of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we can reach a few audiences that you might not have, been exposed to before. We do
Absolutely
stream to a plethora of different platforms, including Pilled and Roku,
and Rumble and
Rumble. Yeah,
all kinds of.
I think you told me that.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool being on Roku because it's on like actual TV. It's not just
That's
YouTube
awesome.
or something. So
precisely, and YouTube's changed so much in the last few years. You kind of got to get a little more creative with how you present yourself anymore.
Yeah. If you're not, throwing bikinis around and all that, so.
Right. Yeah, and I suppose
a bikini physique.
I'm not built for that either. So
this is not that type of live stream. It's just not going to work out for anyone.
No. Our show, It's Frickin' Figures, is definitely marked safe from perennial sunning. So
precisely, pirates or not, this can't be R rated.
Right. Oh yeah. So we have John saying, "Hey, what's going on, guys?"
Yep. Hey, RPJ. Thanks for joining us.
1990, whatever it says. I can't see. So yes, he says this line is news to me. It'll be interesting to see the designs of these figures. That's right. That's what we're here for.
Yep.
We are here to see.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Well, before we get started, we do like to do a little thing called What's in the Box, where we talk about anything new that we've got. Doesn't matter if it's toys or comics or anything you're excited to show off. So,
nice.
Wade, you being the guest, would you like to go first? Did you get anything? Anything new?
Let's see. I'd have to grab something that was on hand, which in the room that I'm in is a little bit. Let's see. Give me like 2 seconds here.
Yeah, no problem.
Nothing like on the spot.
Right, exactly.
It's all part of the show here.
Oh yeah. I was just looking around thinking, like, wait, what am I gonna show?
That's how it goes sometimes, you know. It's
Like trying to make this happen here, but okay, you want me to just go for it?
oh yeah.
Yeah. Go for it.
So, a couple months. This is kind of like three things in one. But so for Christmas, I discovered this year the reindeer over at Big
Oh,
Bad Toy
nice.
Store, and they are absolutely gorgeous. I think I heard somewhere that similar resources, if not the same factory that the Four Horsemen utilize, are what is some of the sculpting and production stuff went into these guys themselves. So they look a little bit related just based on I think how that factory is able to achieve some of the cool detail on these. And I just got very, very fascinated with the concept of a battle Santa Claus. So I tracked down one of those. I think it was a red leather knight Legion builder, and then of course I had my classic figure obscura Santa, and just ended up with this cool little display piece. And
Yeah.
I was so thrilled with those reindeer because I didn't think anything like that existed. They're a little on the small side, but reindeer are actually fairly small animals to begin with, so I didn't think it looked too bad. But that's
Very cool.
as far as recent pickups goes, he's probably within the last couple of months, but he's who we had lying around right now, and he's probably my favorites.
Nice.
It's definitely a good one.
Yeah.
They're really fun.
They are. I've got quite a few of the Santas from that Naughty or Nice collection, and I never thought I would be a collector of Santa Claus figures, but I've got 5 or 6 different ones. So.
Santa's just a favorite character of mine anyway, and it was so cool I mean, that's what got me into Horsemen just as a line and as a company, was being introduced through their figure obscura line with that Jacob Marley, which you can probably see the link between that connection there. But I got that guy and the Green Father Christmas in the same go, and I was hooked because there was already an emotional pull with those two characters. So I couldn't leave the red Santa there when they put him back up in stock, like in November. So ended up with everything with the white beard I have.
Nice. Well, that's some good pickups.
Sure.
Those reindeer are phenomenal. I haven't heard a single bad thing about them. And the sleigh is coming soon, so.
Right, I'm very interested to see the folks that get that in hand, because I know it's supposed to be fairly large. I don't think I can ever hope to have 8 reindeer, but I have at least 2 of them, so who knows how that's going to work out.
That's enough to pull a sleigh.
Yeah.
I'd say that's enough to pull a sleigh for sure.
It's at least a good starting point.
Yeah. And you never know. Maybe you'll run into the big times and be able to take off and have a whole sleigh.
Precisely. We're working on making sure that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna see if Dustin had anything.
No, I don't think I have anything new to share this week. Nope.
No. Okay.
My C3PO is my last thing I opened.
No. Yeah. Well, mine isn't so much as a new or like a rediscovery. I knew I had this, and I knew it was somewhere. I've had it for a while, and I haven't put it together yet. And I think that time is approaching very fast of getting him put together. So This is a 1/60th scale. So he's bigger than most of the Gundam kits out there. And this is my favorite Gundam from G Gundam. So I've looked it up online, and completed, he's supposed to be about 12 inches.
Oh.
So he's definitely bigger than just like the definitely bigger than the 1/44 scale. And then, whatever the other scale is, like the master grades and stuff. But yeah, I'm looking forward to putting him together. I don't know. I've been on this robot kick since I guess I got Voltron again. So
I've been on a robot kick since I was 7.
Well, the interesting thing about my Voltron is I had the one from it was Matchbox or somebody from the 80s or whatever, and it was the die-cast one. He got broke, and I ended up giving him away and regretted it. And here recently, I was able to find that one. That's a newer version of it. So
I see.
I'm happy.
Absolutely.
That's all I've got to share today.
I've always been intrigued by Gundam for many reasons, because Transformers and Lego are two of my favorite things, and that's basically what that is. And I've never let myself do it because I know it would be just another enabling. I'd be down another rabbit hole that I have no business trying to afford.
Oh,
Yeah.
don't I know it? Oh man,
Making everybody's ears burn with that one.
Yeah, I definitely went through that phase as I'm, collecting stormtroopers.
Oh yeah,
This one
you
got
don't
me
stop.
into.
Yep, you don't stop. You
I
don't
was like,
stop
oh
with
yeah,
one
I'm gonna get
stormtrooper.
10 stormtroopers.
Yeah, you don't even stop at 10. Once you hit 50,
Oh
you're
no,
like,
no,
that's just,
I
those are
didn't.
rookie numbers.
I know I
Yeah.
didn't, and I have a ton more now. Oh yeah, but
I might have another clone trooper I can send you to, Dustin, if you want that.
Right? Because you need more.
yep, always. I always need more. Oh,
I had to
boy.
make a rule for myself, unless it was after a certain point, unless it was a new mold, that I would leave
Yeah.
them alone.
Yeah.
I've
And
stuck
see,
to
I
it thus
think, I
far.
think that's true for most figures. Like, the greatest example is the Mando, when they released this Mando on a new body, and
Yeah.
and it's just like, this body is like far superior to all the others, and it's like, okay,
Mhm.
maybe I'll go ahead and get that one, right? So
I had to dial back with Black Series and just focus on original trilogy because I was hemorrhaging way too many funds. I would buy everything if I could, but I had to
Yeah.
pick one, or I was going to be in deep doo-doo.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I've pretty much scaled back. I mean, I'll pick up an occasional black figure, or Zombie will send me one every now and then, but I just focus on, the Thundercats, and that's the one thing that I was never really able to collect as a kid, and so
Yeah.
that's what I'm collecting now. So
Well, you have such a good option for just about everything that was in that, 10-year span of everything that made the 80s, the golden era, what it is. Now you have these premium versions of There's Not a Thing that you can't find, from Ninja Turtles to the Snorks, which is probably a deep cut, but
Yep. I got Ninja Turtles right here.
yeah. Well, exactly. I'll probably get some backlash. I don't even like Ninja Turtles, but that thing looks awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's that new Medi
Yep.
Toys turtle that everybody's going gaga
Yeah.
for right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, cake
There's
turtles,
good reason
you
for
gotta
it.
have them.
As far as Hasbro go, they're making it very easy for me not to go all in and buy all of their stuff. So
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
got
They have an
20
interesting tactic right now, don't they?
I got 20-something stormtroopers over here on the shelf, and there's probably 10 more sitting in the Walmart just down the road from me. And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, that price hike, they can sit there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how everybody feels at this point. You want $44 for a figure that was 19 7 or 8 years ago? No, we're not. Now, that's a whole other conversation, but absolutely
Yeah.
not. That's ridiculous.
For sure.
Well, the biggest
Well,
problem that we're trying to solve right now is everybody's got shelves and shelves and shelves full of all these different IPs, that there's an endless amount of things to supply, and yet nobody has any pirates on their shelf. What's that about?
Mm-hmm. Let's dive in and take a look, shall we?
yeah, I
We can't get away from that dive in joke.
Like I'm looking. I don't think I have, other than the little plunderlings.
Yeah.
I got a couple of them guys, which are
Mhm.
kind of piratey themed.
Yep.
But as far as like pirate, no, I don't have a single. I'd have to make a custom of something if I wanted
Precisely.
like a pirate. So
I have
Underlings are
Captain Hammerhand, and that's the only thing I got.
right. There's always these random, let's see, I have the Dread Pirate Roberts. That doesn't
Yeah.
count. Right. Plunderlings are a really, really interesting little supplemental thing, but they are very much, it's a theme rather than the premise of the brand. And they're such
Mhm.
deceptively
Right.
good little toys on their end anyway. Lone Coconut did a fantastic job just with getting those products to people in the first place, and they have a really, really unique way of self-presentation and how those little figures function on their own right. But they're really self-contained in what makes them special.
Yeah.
And we wanted to do something similar on our end, but bring in all those high fantasy elements that people really like about indie toy products and bring it into that specific classic pirate niche, because for some reason it hasn't been fulfilled anywhere, which is very interesting.
I think now is really the time to do it, because there isn't really anything out there like that, like you said. And the indie scene has really taken off. It's really hitting its stride right now. I don't want to say it's the golden age of indie stuff, because I don't think we've seen that yet. But it's really taken off.
I think the golden age is when, you know, we have really wonderful companies like Four Horsemen that are, you know, hitting a place where they have the measure of influence and also integrity to probably be, you know, balancing making some of the same decisions that Mattel or Hasbro might, but choosing not to retain that, the specialness that makes that brand identity what it is. There's obviously some things that once you get to that strong foothold, you're going to want to stay there. But there's things that the indie scene does and does not do for good reason, because it's different than the large scale scene. And I think that's what makes it special. And we want to retain that with our brand as well. It's just something that's very, very self-contained that I think needs not only protected, but preserved. There's a longevity that I don't think the toy scene should lose here, and that those Kickstarter incentives with bringing these little companies to life in a way that you can't really otherwise is something that I think is going to prove highly beneficial in maybe 15 years or so, when other brands that have been around for so very long have perhaps lost some of their light and flair that they once did. And now you've got some of these newer ideas that have been just kind of on the outskirts and now have this cemented place within people who are looking for something that has never been done before. That's what I've seen the Horsemen do anyway, and do really effectively, and maintain a very unique relationship with their customers while they're doing it, which I think is what fundamentally separates, you know, you book pre-ordering something from Hasbro and pre-ordering something from somebody like the Horsemen. They're, of course, our, you know, teammates in this venture, but there are other companies that behave just like that. And I think it's a really special opportunity that not everybody has. You can't go talk to the Hasbro COO and ask him how he feels about Transformers, because he might not care. It might just be a job to him, and it's a different conversation. And I'm really honored that I get to have it right now. It's extremely special, and I'm going to try not to get emotional.
Yeah, no, the Horsemen, they're a great group of guys. I've been a fan of theirs since they started branching out on their own, doing their own individual toy lines, you know, outside of the big companies or whatever. I really started paying attention to them then, and finding out some of my favorite figures from those bigger lines they had a hand in making, not just the Spawn stuff, but also some of the Marvel stuff. I know Eric Treadaway was the first to do a Spider-Man figure with the webbing etched into the costume, where they would do the wash over it. I've got a Wizard magazine somewhere that I read that in. I've still got it somewhere.
That's news to me.
Oh my God, I had no idea, you know? So, and I still have the figure. I've still got that figure somewhere.
You remember which one it was at all, off the top of your head?
It was a web trap Spider-Man. So it was the ones that came with those little gimmicky kind of traps or whatever. But he's kind of stuck in this kind of pose with his arms kind of out like this.
Okay.
Where his hands. I don't have a picture of it on. You know,
I think I know which one you're talking about. Actually,
he has terribly unprepared.
Very funny pose where his hands are kind of perpetually splayed out like this, no matter what you do with him. But he has that solid black wash and all that etched in webbing. I didn't know that was. I'm a huge Spider-Man guy, and I had no idea that was the first time that was established, let alone who did it. So it's worth the price of admission already. I'm learning new things.
I'm a big like toy news nerd. Like I had at one point there was a local comic shop where they had just a bin of stuff that they needed to identify. Now I didn't work there or anything. I was just kind of in there. I was picking things out going, oh, this is a Happy Meal toy from 1983, and this is a, you know, and they're going, how do you know all this stuff? I'm like, well, I had most of this stuff, so I know what it is.
I'm glad you had that experience. I did the same thing. I have a similar kind of background in the Lego sphere, and I went to some brick and mortar Lego pawn shop type thing. I can't remember what they were called a couple of years ago. I was trying to get a job there for one. They actually didn't like it, how much I knew. It wasn't a good thing while I was in there for some reason. They're like, you know too much of what's going on. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I won't have a commentary over that. There might be some price gouging here I don't know about, but they were not happy with how I was able to identify everything, so that job didn't work out.
You were terribly overqualified.
Apparently. I guess that's what it was.
That is funny. Well, Dustin, bring up that first image. Let's get into the toys here. So
I'm jumping in.
What do we have here, Quay?
I was just about to ask you guys how much research you were able to do individually. Just as far as that website goes, it does have a lot about our story rather than just the toys story. And if you guys hadn't had a chance to go over that, then I'd gladly jump into it if you wanted me to.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, sure.
Go right ahead. I know.
So I know there's a lot of people that know zero about this. So explain it to us like that, like
you're
we know
pitching
nothing.
it to them.
That's perfect. I was just
we're trying to help you out here with your campaign once you get it started.
Well, you guys are already doing a fantastic job, and I was just going to continue on that thread that we had before of talking about the Horsemen, because that's kind of half of the miracle of why these things exist. You know, my wife and I have only been married for about approaching a little over a year now. I've known each other for about closer to 3, I think, at this point. But like I was saying just a minute ago, I first got introduced to the brand with that Jacob Marley mold. Mm-hmm. And that just kind of opened the whole door for what made the Horsemen the company that they are, and the fact that there was seemingly like this endless reach of concepts that they had dived into. And I thought it was very interesting to get so fully immersed in what made those toys what they are and see that there wasn't a hard-hitting representation of this theme, despite the fact that I was looking at a figure that seemed very much like it was begging to be so. Mm-hmm. Well, all I could think while I had that toy in my hands that my wife had so graciously given to me that our first Christmas was, if we can't make toys like this, I don't want to make toys at all. That was a little bit of a shock to her for a couple of reasons, because she didn't know I wanted to make toys at the time. But we didn't even know that I was holding what was our key to that conversation. I had no idea at the time that the Horsemen were open for commission and were very much ready and willing to have that conversation with an up-and-coming indie company that had limited resources on how to navigate that scene, you know, just a very concrete vision of what they wanted to do it with. And so, you know, once I landed on this thread of there's clearly no pirate toys, all these concepts came up overnight in about 30 days. And I couldn't really, it wasn't even so much wisdom as instinct. I couldn't bear but not to send it to them. You know, they were very, very professional and considerate and had me, you know, just on the baseline of communication. We had a little NDA exchange. And then we gave them the concepts we had. But what was very, very fascinating was they took us seriously from the beginning. They were accommodating, and they were very expressive about their interest in our idea and protecting that just on a baseline. So once they had the idea in hand, which, you know, could have amounted to 50 plus figures if that was, you know, in the cards for the budget, which is why we're where we're at here. You know, Cornboy had a lot of really, really good input of how to narrow down what our options were within our budget, which our budget being our life savings. That is what these 3 prototypes are, and how to communicate the most effective, heavy hitting first wave to get across the concept in a complete fashion, despite the fact that the offering is the size that it is. And we not stumbled across all of these characters and concepts were very heavily thought through before we commissioned them, but these three characters just stood out because of how intrinsically they revolved around each other. So it was just really beautiful how it unfolded, because the Horsemen were so open-minded and interested in the idea to begin with, and considerate of us on an individual level. It's not like they didn't say, hey, this making toys is fun, but there is a risk involved to this, and there's a competitive nature to some. This is a business, just like anything else. And those are, of course, things I knew going in, but it was refreshing hearing it from the person that you're talking to saying, hey, we believe in this idea and we think you have a good shot just on a personal level, but we'd be remiss if we didn't say, make sure you knew what you were jumping into just based on the fact that you're investing everything. And it was
Yeah.
that reassurance and that picture of the community that we were walking into that gave us the bravery to jump in the way that we did. And these three captains are a testament to the people that make this industry what it is. And I don't think that they would exist without that
Mhm.
that level of integrity that was holding a door open instead of what I guess could be classified as, gatekeeping under any other context.
Yeah.
They just
Right.
wanted to see this succeed, and they wanted to see it done well. And so what you have before you is the three characters that we landed on, and the fact that we were on our honeymoon when we got the final renders of these three guys before they went into the Paintmaster stage. So this has been our life for the last 12 months, and these guys are a reflection of the storytelling that my wife and I have cultivated and discovered within each other. We both knew that about each other when we went in, but we were not anticipating being able to apply that to what will hopefully become our future. And so all that to say, that's the ooey gooey mushy stuff that makes these things special to us. But
Yeah.
the curating of bringing these things into reality was kind of a miracle in itself, simply because of what we had to work with versus who we were working with. And I think that was everything that made the difference. And so these three pirate captains are what makes the Tide Realm Isles and the three main factions that circulate within it as interesting as they are. The whole premise is that there are these three gods of the Tide Realm that have this continual tumultuous battle where they can't seem to achieve balance for one another. They each represent this different um, component, this different sphere of functionality within the Tide Realms. You have the god of the sea, the god of death, the god of endless horizons, which is kind of what steers the mortals and the pirate people specifically in that direction. And it's this
Mhm.
conflict and convergence of these three guys that sets the Tide Realms into motion. It's their cataclysmic battle and their disappearance that leaves all these creatures these creatures and men anyway, that have come up out of this giant battle. And so everybody is very much left to fend for themselves, decide their own morals and their own status of being. And Captain Alistair Morningstar back there, our human character, is particularly interesting simply because we wanted to. These started in toy form first, so all of their characters and backstories and stuff happened after we'd established an effective visual and hopefully, a strong lineup that just made an action figure cool to begin with. And then they were built outward from there. But we wanted to take the concept of having a pirate, which is not an inherently redeemable character, and give him qualities that were just that. You don't exactly root for Jack Sparrow at the end of the movie because he's such a good guy. You root for Jack Sparrow because he's fun to watch. Alistair is a mix of both. He's fun to write and he's fun to narrate, which that's a little bit of a plug there because we're going to have a audiobook presentation of the lore during the
Nice.
Kickstarter campaign. Um, he's cool because he is this ambiguous character, but he has this moral code that he follows that no other pirate around him does, which is this honor among thieves thing, which is a bit of an ironic paradox for that world. But he's kind of like Optimus Prime and Aragorn thrown into one, except he's a pirate. And so you can see where all that internal conflict comes in, and the absence of the deities in this world is kind of what draws this character specifically into this constant circle within himself. He's very much motivated by purpose and can't find it in this trade that he finds himself forced into simply by virtue of his origins, which are, you know, orphanage and displacement from where he truly comes from, and only finding purpose in something that seems superficial but, you know, fills a hole within him. Anyway, there's a lot to Alistair's character, and so for the juxtaposition, we want to, yeah, there's a lot to this. It just goes on and on and on. It's
yeah, no, that's great though.
But,
that's
yeah,
but
it's not just no. Hey, here's our pirate guy. Go buy our toy.
Right. There's a little bit more to the sales pitch, and we did that on purpose because we wanted the world building to be as depthful as what the brand is reminding you of. So, you know, the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise very much is establishing that tone of what people would expect from a high fantasy pirate thing like this, but we also wanted very much to establish something that was extremely distinct from that franchise. I always thought it was interesting that Disney seemed to be the only one interested in telling a pirate story, which doesn't really make sense to me because that genre is so wide sweeping. So we've had no trouble distinguishing this story from that one, but we want those interesting and creative qualities that make people respond to that genre to begin with present here too. So we've picked very recognizable traits and aesthetic cues from things like that simply because that's already what's going to be pleasing to a collector and you know, someone who just appreciates an art piece on its own.
Yeah.
But we wanted the world building to actually outgrow the toy line from the beginning, so that there was that mantra of endless horizons was supposed to be a constant throughout the whole line. There's always something new. There's always something else that could be coming because the whole conflict is very renewable by nature. And so our two villains are definitely an antithesis to what Alistair is about, and he's kind of trying to establish this standard for what the humans could be functioning alongside, even though the main, which is, you know, different part of Alistair's story anyway, the main ruling faction of the humans within the world is kind of this corrupt imperialistic type thing that's going on. But they are nothing compared to Captain Deathmoid, our skeleton pirate captain, who is pretty much the answer to the absence of the gods. He exists because they don't. And we established his aesthetic the way we did for a reason, because just like the Horsemen are so very, very good on presenting a toy for the artistry that is in its own right, without locking a fan into the self-contained story within. You buy a Darth Vader figure, what else are you going to use Darth Vader for? It's probably going to be Darth Vader. You buy one of those dragon guys behind there, they don't have to be the story that they wrote for them. The fact that they bothered to write a story for them is cool, and you can take that and run with it. But the sandbox play that is baked into the nature of the indie scene is what attracted us most. And so Deathmoid by nature, you can absolutely use as your undead skeleton pirate and leave him there. But in universe, he is his own unique entity. He's called the Void of the Black Tide for a reason, as he's come out of this corruptive influence that is quite literally seeping into the ocean. And his whole mantra that he is seeing within the tide realms is this seemingly this leftover chaos from these gods that couldn't seem to get their act together. And it seems to him that the answer is perfect nothingness, i.e., just kind of this totalitarian himself. And so he has this crew of the perished, which are all very much like him and follow under his guidance. The most interesting part about Deathmoid specifically is that, you know, each of these pirate captains, this was a very cool design trait that I think was a suggestion I made to Cornboy that he elevated to kind of a systematic placement on all three. It originated in Deathmoid, and we gave it to everybody. They have this unique story-relevant pendant on their neck. Deathmoid specifically acts as this kind of Palantir, Saruman's seeing eye type object that is connecting him to this god realm that he's himself even unaware of, and it's leading him in this direction that even Deathmoid is not actually in control of. So there's some mystery and some intrigue to where his destiny lies, because he feels completely in control of his environment and owed control of his environment. And yet there's a story behind the scenes that even he, in his all-encompassing influence, is not aware of. And so his crew members have, a measure of dissent that he doesn't see coming in the background, because they're not supposed to have minds of their own. And anyway, that's going into, again, the same point of there's lots and lots and lots of details baked into these that make for a continually renewable toy line, because there's always another concept to turn to once your first idea has been established. And so, what we call now our pretty boy, which is Fish Face next, Captain Charybdis.
Oops.
And
I lost
there he is.
There.
He's very much treading the same water as, another octopus-faced person that we could mention, because it's just such a cool aesthetic, but we wanted to elevate it to an even more baked in, intrinsically relevant nature to the world. And so, you have a cool character like Davy Jones, who's very much this corrupted human that's been cursed into his position in life, or death as it would be. And Charybdis is something very different by nature. Charybdis has even more divine origins than either of the other two captains, and links to the ocean that are by nature fairly renewable. And yet he's taken his purpose and abused it in a sense. And the Tideborn, the race he comes from, he very much sees as this kind of superior race to everything that exists, and something that should have held the permanent foothold over the rest of creation and didn't. So he has this, I say like you do, and here I am explaining it. He has this prison that he's found himself in for eons, and it's, interestingly enough, only the presence of Deathmoid that allows him to escape it. And now he's taking this form of vengeance upon the surface realm that he would like to draw back into the sea from whence it came. His whole motivation is to open this continent-sized whirlpool in the center of the Tide Realms called the Maw of the Abyss. And it's only by uniting some of these special divine relics that some of them directly possess in accessory form that will allow him to do that. And so everybody has a very, very specifically rooted motivation within what makes the world what it is. And all of them have reasons for conflicting with one another. There is no real good guy, bad guy. It all comes down to which side you find yourself leaning towards. Now, we hope that in reality, nobody finds themselves leaning towards how Charybdis and Deathmoid feel, but you can see why they would feel the way they do. And you have a really, really good reason for there always being an opportunity for a play pattern with anybody that you chose to buy. And even beyond these three that we've initially proposed, there's so much more to this line that we would love to bring to people for those exact reasons, if the company was allowed to grow to that state, because the amount of opportunities that people have for storytelling with these characters are just as endless as what you'd expect from a line like Mythic and Cosmic. And the collector play pattern is an intrinsic part of what we think about when coming up with these characters. So all of the sculpting detail and stuff, that's precisely, what made us excited about going to the Horsemen, because they were able to tell that story in every detail that's presented on these guys. There's not a single object that's on them that doesn't have some baked in story relevance, and it's all something that can either just look cool on your shelf and be something fun to pour over, or you can go to the website and dig into what exactly that is and why it's there. And so there's a lot of mystery and depth that we wanted folks to feel like there would be an endless amount of discovery if you chose to jump into it with each of these three figures. That's a very long-winded sales pitch, but there you go.
No, it was great.
Yeah, no, I'm digging everything you're saying.
Yeah.
Means I'm doing my job.
Yeah. I'm just
the
fascinated.
photography, I'm so glad that I sent it to you, because it looks like that's what's working best on the website this time around. The photography was really, really interesting to do, simply because, you know, I don't have a proper photography studio. You know, filmmaking and storytelling is already part of my background, so I have quite a bit of technical know-how, but I don't have a lot of assets to do that with. So a lot of these shots with this solid black background and the accessories that are adjusted to as close to perfection as possible took a lot of meticulous work and blood, sweat, and tears, because these prototypes are very delicate. And so I imagine that 1/6 shooter Trevor can probably commiserate with that we've not had any serious casualties, but since these guys are 3D printed, it is almost impossible to interact with them without some small nerve-wracking thing. And so, and especially since you're photographing them on glass, if they fall over, it's a huge deal. So a lot of time and swearing and tears went into some of these photos. So I'm glad they turned out as well as they did, because we really wanted to showcase that the dark, moody atmosphere that we're trying to achieve with this line, while giving people that high quality look at the details that the Horseman worked so very hard in establishing for these guys.
Yeah, for anybody out there that's not familiar with holding like certain prototype pieces in your hand, like think if you've held any like 3D printed pieces, the thinner you get, the more brittle it can be. And there's also, you know, factors like different, whatever the resin is that was used or anything like this. But these are like actual printed pieces. So yeah, it can be very nerve-wracking working with this sort of thing. I've got a little bit of experience with it, but nothing like what Trevor and the Horsemen do.
Right. Trevor has, at least he's told me, he's got this long-standing history of accidentally breaking prototypes, which one I think is, I think that's hilarious, just because it's his job. You know, you're getting all those amazing photographs from him, and sometimes it's on him that the almost irreplaceable prototype. But that's right there with him. It's an absolutely endlessly nerve-wracking process, but it's semi-forgiving, simply because of the nature of the material that we're able to work with now, based on how 3D printing has advanced. So if you have just the right kind of glue and just the right patience, it'll be pretty seamless. It's okay. Worst thing I ever did was panic. So it's the nature of the game, and hopefully it's a casualty that I get to run into more, because it means we have more figures coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the frustration of shipping these things, because I know Trevor is not like he's like their guy that they use for all of their images, all their pictures and everything. But I know he's not like in-house, like he lives elsewhere. So things have to be shipped. I just couldn't imagine something happen, because I know I've got terrible luck with shipping stuff. Certain things sometimes, and it just, like, the worst offender to me in my area is the U.S. Postal Service.
Yes.
But for someone else, it's UPS, or God forbid, someone else, it's FedEx. You know, we've all got our horror stories.
I'm right there with you. And we didn't even escape it. You know, this time around, the Horsemen know what they're doing. They've done this for forever. We got them in once they were, within a couple weeks, once they were all finished, and there was already just a small casualty, because you cannot avoid it with the horrible system that we've got in place. There's not anything more they could have done. It was not preventable. And so the transfer of assets between one entity to the other is, next to the marketing phase of this, maybe the most stressful part of this whole venture. And it's something that we're going to be faced with all over again. We're still I suppose it's safe for me to talk about it at this point, but we're still debating between myself and Terrence St. John. Him and his wife Gina are very graciously and very helpfully kind of being a little bit of our public relations department, and we'll be representing Tide Realm Corsairs at several events, several toy conventions within the next 5 or 6 months. One of those being IshCon, which is actually pirate themed for this year.
Nice.
That is
Yeah.
in like the very tail end of May, I believe. Point being is that, you know, we have in hand these 3 prototypes are the only thing that exist of these characters on the planet. And they are our entire life savings in these 3 objects. So we don't transport them lightly. The fact that we were at Legion's Con alone was a bit of a miracle. And we actually had no casualties throughout that process. And that was because I didn't let those prototypes out of my sight. They were my carry-on there and back. They just didn't leave my hands. So I don't trust the post office with these to save my life. And me and Terrence are still debating how we're going to get these physically in front of people, because we would prefer for them to have them since they're going to be the ones showing them off. We're very landlocked in our location. My wife and I are all the way out in Wyoming, which is not where you want to be trying to start a business. It's not for forever. We don't intend to stay here, but as all you probably have to tell almost no one, it's very, very hard to relocate right now.
Yeah.
So those are just the assets that we have. And so anyway, that's a problem that we have to sort out for ourselves, but that's what we're faced with right now. And I have people that I trust with these things, but we got to figure out how to get them into people's hands. And since everybody we're working with is almost 1,000 miles away, you can see our predicament. So we'll find a solution somewhere in here. And Terrence and Gina are very, very good at hyping these things up. Even if they don't have the prototypes in hand, everybody who's interested in the brand will be in good hands anyway. But if possible, it's something that we want to try to make happen. But these photos specifically are interesting because, of course, as these are prototypes themselves and hand painted prototypes at that, you have to be careful for numerous reasons. But they also are not the engineering is there when it comes to the renders of the figure and how the articulation plays out. But these particular pieces of 3D printed plastic do not actually articulate. They articulate in the sense of, you know, to bring them together as one full unit so that they're a complete piece. But about all you can get out of these guys is, you know, the arms the way they are. So we tried our best to pose them in a way that at least looked engaging, despite the fact that these things at this stage can't do that. It's hit or miss. There's photos that I'm happier with than the other, but we wanted to mainly get the point across, of course, that these guys are intended to fight each other and how they look like next to each other. Because it's one thing seeing the render of the individual character loadout; it's another seeing them paired together.
Right. I do want to reiterate. I'm glad you touched on the articulation. Like, you can see if you look at these pictures where the articulation is intended to be.
Yes.
But for anybody unfamiliar with how prototypes work, think more along the lines, these are like mini statues at this point.
Absolutely.
But they will be fully articulated figures. They're not, you know, going to be this stiff in final form. I can look at what you've got here just in the prototypes and tell these things are going to move like a dream.
I haven't had to explain that to very, very many people, which is fantastic, because that's just a testament to
if you're in right if you're in the circles of people that collect legions and anybody that's connected with the Full Horsemen, like if you're familiar with their work, you're gonna know what to expect. But for anybody that is unfamiliar, we try to, you know, because I don't want to like speak to anybody's intelligence level, but I'm sure you've got some pretty wild questions that you get taken aback, like, wait, did you ask me what I think you just did?
We have had plenty of run-ins like that. And it's funny because it's kind of an iron sharpens iron thing. You get the opportunity to answer a question that might sound ignorant, and it may be, but you have the opportunity to connect with someone in a different way than you do someone who's already versed, not only in the lingo and how the industry works, but just your product on an individual level. So I treat it as an opportunity, despite the fact that it, you know, might be a little bit of an eye roll moment. I've had so it's not that I've had quite a few surrounding, one or two subjects specifically, but we have yet to run into anybody who has anything terribly. We've had some wonderful constructive feedback, which I'm always looking for, but like any actual negative commentary, we haven't found anybody who's been out there to, just kind of find what's wrong with it. I think like on the road getting to the airport to go to Legions Con, I was combing through the internet and I literally couldn't even tell you what forum it might have been. But I found this maybe like 3 or 4 page long internet thread. Probably maybe like within the first couple of weeks we made them publicly, known, which was like back in end of August, which was this whole, I don't know where these guys came from, and they were just lighting them on fire, tearing them apart. And of course, it was faceless. They didn't have anything to go off of. They were having to dig really, really hard to. They were very specific with the things they were trying to find wrong with it, which I just thought was, if I had found that the week that they were released, I probably would have been crushed. And I'm so glad that we had the several months that we did to get, constructive fan feedback, and folks that were the Horseman community just on their own outside of the rest of the toy community is highly supportive, highly engaged, and highly open-minded. So it's not been hard at all to have people like yourselves just sit and want to talk about it. But that's the only thing I've ever found, and it was really funny because you had to go digging for it, and I was like, there's nothing positive here. It's mind blowing. But I couldn't tell you where it was.
It's still publicity, good publicity,
right,
bad
that's
publicity.
exactly,
they're still talking about you.
Right, that's exactly what I walked away with. I was like, interesting. I can't find anything real here, but they're talking about it, so that's good.
Yeah.
If you do good, they'll talk about you. If you do bad, they'll talk about you. They're going to talk about you either way, so you do you.
Right. Might as well do your best anyway. And that's what's interesting about these figures on their own. And we're going to have that that articulation breakdown. We have the exploded view of all these guys. We're going to have that publicly available probably next week, for no other reason other than we wanted to make sure everything was dialed in as far as the terminology to lock in what joint, how it functions, where it lies, and that's just taken a little bit to get finalized, and was mostly relevant once we got closer to the Kickstarter campaign. But
yeah,
these are especially interesting just on a personal level, because as an artist, you go back, I'm sure most people can relate to this, you go back to whatever it is you've made and pick at it and find the thing you'd change and you're never happy with it, and you go back to it 18 times and then you ruin it by the time you're done trying to make it perfect. These have not been like that. There's been almost nothing that I would go back and just, when you're this far in the prototyping stage, you better be there anyway. But there's not been something even on the emotional level that I would go back and say, man, I wish we could have done that, but they're done exactly how we wanted them to be. Their color palette is exactly what we wanted. All the detail call outs are exactly what we wanted. The accessory loadout, the fact that each of these 3 captains have 6 sets of unique hands to themselves is something that we didn't know we'd be able to achieve going in. And so we're very, very proud of the loadout that they have, despite how much we're able to offer. A 3-figure wave is not a lot, but at the same time, we were it seemed very tactical, simply because not only was that all we were able to give within Humanly Possible, but because there's so many things to pick from now in the action figure industry. There's so many wonderful places to go to for almost anything your heart's desire. And so everybody's wallets are looking in a lot of different directions. And when your wallet is looking in so many different directions, it's already hard to choose. And I can speak for myself when I say, when you get in on a line, you're not interested in just getting one and calling it a day. You would like the whole wave. You would like to go back and track down all the archive figures. Like, you're not going to do that. So when a pre-order goes up and it's a 6, 7, 8, 12 figure wave, sometimes you're dropping $400+, and it's a big pill to swallow. And so one thing that's making us happy about how we are choosing to start out here is simply the fact that an all-in for these 3 captains is not going to approach that. People are going to be able to take in everything that's available from this line and have it at a very affordable price and assess exactly what makes this special to them, so that when hopefully, so long as the campaign performs to the abundant lengths that we are hoping, that when that second wave comes around in, folks have taken the line in for what it is and are even more interested because they didn't have to dive in on this, there it is again, this expensive investment that took a bunch of capital for something that they weren't 100% certain they're going to enjoy until they have it in hand, potentially, you know, sometimes 2 years later. And so a small, good Lord, the word dive is just going to keep going there. A small dive into something like this felt very reasonable for collectors that are getting introduced to what is essentially a new genre, even though it's from a well-known source, but it's a new company fulfilled through methods that are, you know, have been proven to come through in the end. But it's a very different conversation than it is a 3-month window from Hasbro where you're gonna have your product by Q2 and call it a day. You very much have a relationship, or at least if your manufacturer is doing their job correctly, you should be able to have a relationship with the creator. You should be able to have a relationship with the campaign, followed after by a relationship with the object. And it's that whole package coming together that makes that experience what it is. And the fact that this is so, word I'm looking for, it's gone. I've done so well up until now. Good grief.
It happens to us all the time.
Yeah.
The fact that it is so intimate, there it is, gives people this really, really tight way of jumping into a line without sinking all of their resources into it at once. And I think that's a little bit of a gift we can give, because the most torturous part about a new line is knowing how much is there and feeling like all of it's just out of reach. And we're in the same, here comes another pun, we're in the same boat that the rest of the community is, because we are the only ones with all of that knowledge around what could be on the next horizon. And nobody has to be tortured with it until it's time. But we promise that there's a ton going on behind the scenes. And if this campaign performs to the level that it needs to, even just to help sustain a second wave, these are captains. Folks are going to want a crew, and our next priority is making sure that they have one. And we want to make sure that people feel confident in the company on its individual rights, to know that that's what's coming and that we are listening to that fan engagement, and the fact that that of course would be the very next thing people are interested in.
I can appreciate that this first foray for you into Kickstarter is going to just be a 3-figure wave. Like that's perfect. Like I'm all in already. Like you've got me. But also I want to point out, like, with just these 3 figures, there's also, you know, a parallel with something that the Horsemen showed off at Legion's Con with their kind of pirate themed, you know, they're dipping their toe into the seafaring folk of their world of mythos and everything. I think these figures would go great just paired with any of those. And then I also saw somewhere out there, this got shared. So
yes.
So,
between
love,
the Abyss Force line, and of course that, right, we were talking a minute ago and I saw him and I went, this guy's ready. Between this guy and the Sunken Citadel pirate, which is of course perfect, from McFarlane, those are some fishy type guys that we think would be just excellent with these. And they're very different products from what we're producing, but aesthetically, especially Angular over there.
Yeah.
He
It's a
phenomenal.
fantastic figure too.
Gorgeous.
And Baron Benz, in my opinion. That's my go-to seafaring folk dude.
Right. And the Horsemen were especially gracious. I think that very much ties into that kind of preservation versus gatekeeping mindset as an industry, that, you know, they easily could have said, obviously everybody's seen what Dawn's of Discovery is going to be, and we have 2 very different grains of thought when it comes to what those toys are supposed to be. But they had every right to go, this is a little too close to some of the things we're thinking about. You guys might have to go in a little bit different direction or something, or come back with a different idea, or maybe we're not the right company for you or something. And they did. That's not how they responded at all. And they were very, very confident in this idea, interested in stewarding it in a direction that was beneficial for both companies. And lo and behold, you have something that's making everybody happy. Because we hear that all the time, that these are going to be absolutely wonderful with what they've got going on. And we couldn't agree more. We were biting our nails at Legion's Con because they're like, what are they doing to us? And then, of course, everything came out for real. And we went, oh, no, they were doing nothing but taking care of us, which was, of course, what was going on. And so we're just as excited.
You're definitely the people that are already foaming at the mouth for the Horsemen's stuff that they showed off at Legion's Con. Like I guarantee they're gonna jump right on this stuff. Like, yep, we're in the mood for that. We want it.
Yeah, precisely. The whole action figure route. That was what was interesting, is we saw this gaping void when it came to this sea theme, which can't be, Aquaman can't be the only one with that territory. Come on. So it seemed very, very strange that there was just this gaping void. Clearly, we were not the only ones who saw said void. But it's very slowly trickling in, and I'm hoping that we're not, you've got some really, really other great supplementary, even though they have a specific presentation and a specific design philosophy in them for their company, you have some really, really great options from Savage Crucible too, which I'm sure everybody's mostly aware of. And that third wave from their Kickstarter, I think they're working on fulfilling fairly soon, and it has these really cool, I think they're called piranoids, deep sea fish type guys. I think they're a decent amount smaller in scale, but again, with these monster characters, it's very, very easy to fudge them. So there's just here or there's these little pockets of indie companies that are fulfilling this, what is clearly becoming a need, and we're so very, very honored to have jumped in at the time to fulfill that classic pirate genre that is not ever quite spelled out in some of these other supplemental things, and we wanted to hit it as hard as possible.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to attempt to go to the site, your site, TideRealmCorsairs.com.
Yep, you got it.
If I freeze up and I blink out, I will be back and I will try to pull it back up. I do have a few tabs open, so that might affect my performance here.
Right. Hooks crossed.
All right, so here we go.
So far, so good. He has not disappeared.
Yeah.
What has happened is he's jumped into the Tide Realm, is what just happened.
Oh! Whisked away.
Precisely. This is one of my favorite photos. That was taken just kind of, and of course, it's not like it's that much different than the character loadouts, but the fact that I was able to get such even, crisp lighting on all three of them in one spot was an achievement based on the teeny tiny table I was working with. So I'm really, really happy that that's looks the way it does on the front page, because it's really, really hard to make happen.
I actually really like the different swords that they all are all wielding, and they all speak to both a specific kind of warfare and all that kind of stuff. I think it
absolutely
very nice.
We wanted to incorporate, obviously, everything for the most part is very, very highly rooted in that the era of piracy that most of these stories are drawing from anyway. But their large swords that they have are, of course, the most story relevant object they carry. Alistair's sword, specifically the glowing transparent blue one, is what's referred to as the Eye of the Storm, and it's actually, hopefully someday we will have a physical representation of its other half. But it is two objects in one, and it's first discovered within the story as what's referred to as the Beacon of Balance, which is this glowing lantern that is what first starts sending Alistair on his journey against these two enemies. And it's, of course, at this culmination of this battle that has yet to be divulged to the public, where it becomes the Eye of the Storm. And it's particularly interesting because Charybdis has some specific roots to it as well. Everybody's weapons are either birthed of an environment that's intrinsic to who they are, or it has these divine origins that bestow upon the wielder some connection to one of those three gods of the Tide Realm. These are really cool, these three illustrations, because they come from our good buddy Noah at Edge Comics, who did these, and we have more down the pipeline of some other aspects of the story. And we wanted these here to give people exactly what we were talking about, a small taste of what could be to come if the story took off, because a lot of these are already also very heavily conceptualized and realized characters within the story. All of these guys, individual faces, and all have specific roles and what makes them them. And Noah has done a really, really effective job just giving everybody a little glimpse into what you're supposed to be looking at here. Our little crab counterpart in the front here, the center of
I love him
here. Right, we have been trying to. He's the Snitch the Crab promotional drive is going to amp up within the next few months, because he is essentially our brand's mascot. He's also my wife's personal favorite character, and he's cool, not just because he's fun and endearing and he has some really, really entertaining roles within the universe, but he also has some massive implications to who and what he is. He's very unassuming by nature. And so there's plenty that can already be read about him within the Pirates Codex, but there's so much more to him and what he means to the Tideborn that we're very, very excited to jump into, because folks are gonna eat up Snitch. Hopefully not literally, because that's Carcarius's job up in the corner there. He's the one trying to eat Snitch, but that's a different story.
I used to work with a guy that was very unassuming, totally invisible. He could get away with anything because he just didn't look like the type to, be into anything. He just people wouldn't look twice at him. I'm like, man, you get away with murder here.
That's hitting a little too close to home here. Just a little bit.
Hey, I don't have any insider information, I promise. I have to constantly say that because I'll say something jokingly and I'll be like dead on.
And then you get the big old wink.
Like I can't have conversations with the Horsemen or anything because they're like, do you have access to our database or something? Like, no, I swear.
Don't remember giving you our Dropbox, so now we're gonna have a whole other conversation.
No, really.
I promise I'm good.
I look forward to learning more about him. He's cool.
There's so much there, and there's already a decent amount. And so these are three placeholder illustrations for the gods of the Tide Realm, as it so blatantly shoves in your face here. And these are done by our good friend Dimitri, who we have talked to over on Geeked Out Click on YouTube. That was quite a few months ago. It was within the first few weeks that we unveiled the line. And that relationship just kind of grew fairly naturally over the first few months. And I found out that he was a very, very talented artist. And he was very, 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 very interested in this line. And so his contribution here is purely out of generosity and support of us as a company, period. And he's done an absolutely amazing job translating our concept art into presentable illustrations here. And so the little bio that I think is probably a few pages under these ones does circulate around the description of these guys' role within universe. And they're fairly self-explanatory to look at as far as their aesthetic development, who they influence as far as the three captains go within the line. Hurricane specifically has been getting a ton of attention because next to Snitch, he's probably the best example of what makes this line what it is. He's quite literally, absolutely, he's quite literally supposed to be this walking shipwreck. I mean, think Devastator and Transformers come together to form this god of the sea, and he has all of these wonderful call outs on him that are only so visible because of the nature of the medium we're presenting him in. But he has ammo that's quite literally barrels, and it's just everything's supposed to be larger than life with these guys. He's wearing a sail for his coat. There's all these creative cues that we put into him to make him what he is. So these guys, of course, by nature are phenomenally large and would not be necessarily realistic to produce in that sense, but they would still be these would be well down the road. They would be ambitious characters at any stage of a product development. Hopefully they would of course be larger in some capacity than just about everybody else, but they would they'd require very unique tooling between all three guys. And so there's something that they're so very intrinsic to the theme and the origins of the line that we couldn't help but prioritize them in the presentation and the marketing, despite how ambitious they are by nature. And they're things that we really, really hope this takes off, because people are going to love these guys too.
That's another thing you mentioned, the unique tooling for each of them. In your first three figures, there's a ton of unique tooling between just those three characters. So you're not just presenting one body in your Kickstarter dressed up with different accessories. You got three different bodies there.
So interestingly enough, you don't have our drop box, it sounds like, because then this is cool because they're clearly achieving what we worked so very, very hard for months to achieve. All three of those captains do share the torso, the pelvis, the thighs, and the upper arms. Everything else is unique to everybody.
That's just the core. That's just
right.
The core.
It is definitely the core. Everybody else is dressed out from, everybody's forearms are completely unique. Their boots are unique. Their hands are unique. Their heads are unique. There are the two villain characters. They do have the same coat, and those are painted to the nines completely differently than each other. And that was also done for a practical reason, simply because that piece is, while malleable, very large. And so having three unique coats to everybody was almost impractical to achieve just on a manufacturing side of things anyway. But we prioritized in the development making sure that everyone was as unique as humanly possible. And I'm really, really glad that translates within the prototypes as is, because that's what I hear every time, is nobody can tell that there's any reuse, and there's very little. It's not even 50%, not even close.
Well, it makes sense, construction and money wise, to reuse something in your figures, but you achieve these unique looks between each of them. It's done really, really well here, and I applaud you for that.
That's phenomenal to hear, because it's very, very gratifying when it works out to that way, because that's kind of the double-edged sword of toy manufacturing. You have to. I think I paused out there for a second.
Am I glitching, or are you guys glitching?
No,
I think it's me.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I was rocking the boat for a minute. I think I'm okay now. We'll see.
Okay.
All I was saying was that you find yourself as a manufacturer in the same place every single time you want to release a product, which is if you have to pay for new tooling, that's a solid investment and an unchanging investment for you as the manufacturer, but it's a permanent one. You can't get out of it, and so if it doesn't continue to pay for itself at some point, you're in a lot of trouble when it comes to sustainability. So if you can find purposeful ways of utilizing tooling within more than one product, then you're golden. It's kind of a necessity. The toy industry isn't the only industry that does have to utilize that medium of sustainability, but it's one of the most visually apparent, and it's really, really hard to balance, because of course people get tired of the same toy over and over. Now these guys, just on their own, we have it's not confirmed yet. This isn't gospel that I'm spelling out here, but we have 3 proposed repaints that we would love to present within the Kickstarter to hopefully optimize that tooling. They're very story relevant. They would be purposeful in their own right. And that's precisely what we wanted to maintain with these products on every level, no matter who we're working on, is if you're reusing a part, make sure that it's intentional, not, I'm going to throw somebody under the bus here, not painting Iron Man pink and putting him out for Valentine's Day. That's not very
so, or an Ewok.
Yes, precisely. It's not really making anybody all that happy. It's making everybody laugh, but probably not for the right reasons. So it's just, and there's so many indie companies that do that in a really intelligent way. And that was another reason we felt so very confident being in the Horseman's hands, because they are masters at reusing sculpts and making it feel like a new toy in its entirety. And these guys are very, very much a testament to that.
Yeah, they just recently started introducing new Knight parts. They've been using the same Knight stuff for 20 years. And everybody just kept eating it up.
Yeah, since 2015. Well, and especially when you have, they particularly have a piece of brilliance because they were able to monopolize on a system that they developed, and some of that interchangeability, you know, talk about double-edged sword, it does lock you in some aspects of your product, because now all of your pieces have to be compatible with each other within one reason or the other, and they have to follow, you know, a similar design philosophy that lets you evolve over time. So that's another piece of mastery, that there's a reason we went a little bit of different direction with these guys, because we very much wanted some line-wide compatibility just to optimize mold reuse, but we didn't necessarily want to be locked into a specific form of compatibility that wouldn't allow for some more ambitious characters that are completely different by nature. This is a particularly cool piece of media that I haven't gotten to talk about very often, simply because it's, of course, the toys that are the main centerpiece here. This took weeks to put together, which is, of course, the full map of the Tide Realm Isles, and you have your entire world, at least of what we've revealed of it, to dissect in that one image there. And so you have specific places where each of these 3 characters in particular originate. You have the Maw of the Abyss right there in the center. You have some locations that are hinting towards factions that aren't even revealed yet. And then you have your little bio there that's giving you that dissection of what makes this map what it is. And that's one of the most fun parts of building a world like this out, is quite literally illustrating the land that you're taking part in. And this seemed like a very crucial part of the development. We wanted this to be something people had very, very early on. So this has been on the website since the beginning. And we haven't really had to touch up on it too much, because it's done so far a really, really good job of communicating what we're after and the aesthetic that we're going for.
I love stuff like this.
Yeah.
I hope you have plans to have a physical, tangible map as part of your Kickstarter for people, because I can see this in a frame.
That's something that we have batted around once or twice. It's going to come down to, you know, optimizing the most amount. Sometimes you can always give too little, and that's never helping. But sometimes you can give too much and give people too many options when it comes to supporting something. But a map specifically would be not hard to make happen, and it's something that if it didn't happen in this campaign, we absolutely would like to fulfill it somewhere in there. Because it turned out so cool.
Like a 40-figure wave from the Horsemen, their Advent of Decay, however many figures was that? It's like, oh my god, I'm at home going, please stop, no right. More. And other people are going, give us more.
Exactly. That's one of the most insane, you know, because we're having to compare notes with all of our peers, as many notes as we can with all of our peers who have been here before us, and get some of that insight when it comes to what makes a campaign what it is. And everybody's got a completely different story about getting this off the ground. And there isn't really necessarily there's some rules to follow, but there's not this ecosystem wide answer for what makes a Kickstarter successful. And I think there's some ecosystem-wide answers for what makes them not successful. But when they happen and get off the ground for the reasons that they get off the ground. But the Horsemen's campaign, both times, is something that I've never seen in any other project, period. And the fact that they just had to keep, based on practically extortionistic demand from fans who just want more on the same principle that, you know, they're spending the dollar, 40 plus figures in what, you know, no wonder they're still making them.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a few myself, but like I've actually started. I have too many. Like I've been going through some of those things here recently, and like I've never opened some of them. I'm going now. Why do I still have these things?
Right,
like there are other people clearly that would appreciate them. Let me get them into their hands.
Yeah, that's a fairly cutthroat way to, you know, find yourself within the collecting ecosystem. And I think that's something that I don't know that we're necessarily interested for ourselves in combating, but I would really like for people to associate this brand with some measure of sustainability, so that there's a level of each release is very special, and you don't find yourself oversaturated in 10 years because you have an entire shelf that's suddenly become a animal within your life that you have to work around instead
Where's
of
the shit?
right. Precisely. That would be the point where it's like nobody can, we hear the phrase release the Kraken over and over, and, you know,
Well, yeah, I mean, I was actually going to ask that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, when are you going to make a creature?
Precisely.
How about a boat?
Speaking of, you know, drop boxes that are staying on the other side of the screen, you know, that's something that would be pretty much the same conversation that the dragon was, and that's a conversation that hopefully 15 years into our future we get to have. But absolutely, that would be the threshold that you'd cross between, okay, this started here, look where we're at, and that's, of course, we would attack that if we had the opportunity to. But these guys here specifically, you know, we wanted to engineer something that, God forbid, this was as far as we could go. And that if that was the case, however unlikely, that they could remain on your shelf for years to come, and they all relate to each other so intrinsically that you feel like you have a complete series in those three captains to begin with, rather than an unfinished thought.
Yeah.
I can see that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got a double screen pulled up, so I'm like, okay, is there something? Where's, like, I don't want to pull up something that I shouldn't. I'm not gonna click on each of the videos. I don't know if there's music in them. I don't want us to get flagged or anything, because I've done that on another one of our shows, and they they snapped this off real quick, and I'm going, oh no, what did I do?
That's weird. I would only be afraid of like the video quality potentially kicking off. I would only say that if that's not an issue, the music shouldn't be, because it was commissioned for the brand. You know, we have the Tide Realm theme song on these, so there should not be anything that would get you in trouble with that. And it's the same song on each of the three videos. I think that first video up at the top there is actually all three of them in one, and then these three are focusing on each prototype individually. But if that song got you in trouble, I would be equally ticked off, because there's no reason for it to.
Yeah.
I will say, anybody that does want to check these out, head over to the website. It's Dustin, do you have maybe that typed up that you can pull that on screen? It's TideRealmCorsairs.com. TIDEREAM. I say I already screwed it up. TIDEREALM CORSAIRS.
Does reading with one eye help?
Yes, because I don't have my glasses on, and I forgot my eye patch.
I forgot my whole uniform, so I can't talk.
I had an incident where I did have to wear an eye patch for a little while, so my
Gotcha.
left eye still isn't really fully like there.
Almost.
So sometimes I have to like close it.
We're missing an eye in Corsair.
Okay.
I love that background. That's hopefully not going to cause me to crash.
The building the website took several weeks, and there's quite a few people I've talked to that are into website design as is, and it sounds like for being complete novices at it, because literally I've never built a website in my life. This was the first time. And it sounds like we did hopefully a pretty decent job, because I haven't heard too many complaints aside from, the average website bug that you'll run into where something didn't load properly, or the cache catch thing isn't giving you the information you're supposed to. But as far as the format goes, I haven't heard too many issues from folks, and there's a lot of pages to explore out here, so that's encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it looks great to me. I'm definitely going to come back. I haven't read through everything, but I'm for sure going to.
There's a lot to read through. It would take you a little while to consume everything. It's done that way on purpose to keep everybody fed up until the campaign.
Right. Yeah. And do you have an idea about when the campaign is going to launch?
So that's what this little blurb down here is talking about, and it's actually more vague than I even have to be anymore, because that was written over the summer. But the trajectory, and we don't have any information to conflict with the goal, so long as we get the factory quotes within a reasonable time frame from the Horsemen as far as what numbers that we need to work with when it comes to the campaign. Getting that funding goal and your math correct is the most important part of not only a campaign launch, but launching a company. You can never get it perfect, but you want to get it close. And so while we're working on that, the goal is we're looking closer and closer to May as our launch date. I can't say an exact day yet, but hopefully that April or May category. And like I just said, we don't have any information to push us back yet. If there's some kind of delay as far as the information we need to execute that to the best of our ability, folks will know as soon as we do, and we'll say whether it'll be maybe pushed back a month or two more than we thought it was going to. But this year, is very much locked in the books. We're not interested in waiting much longer, because eventually folks are going to get impatient and tired, and they're already going to be waiting for these things to be produced. So let's not hold off too much longer on that Kickstarter campaign anyway. But that's the hope. That's the trajectory. We don't have any reason to believe that we can't do that. When it comes to this website specifically, so not as I speak, but that could be what I'm still working on right after I get off this call anyway, is we're working on that Kickstarter landing page so that people can get their email signed up and ready to be notified when the thing goes live. That is not up yet, and we're working on getting it up as quick as possible. There's a lot of moving parts just to that landing page because there's so many requirements Kickstarter has right out the gate. But so the website...
I do see here on your website where it says stay in the loop. You can enter your email address and subscribe there also.
Yes, that's right where I was headed, is that we are treating the website exactly like you would the landing page. And so anybody who puts their email address in there, one, I would encourage you to, simply because that's the best way to stay directly updated to the status of the project and its trajectory. And it gives you special little insider tidbits to photography, story content that isn't released to the public right away. And then it is also, it's giving you the best chance of being one of the early backers in the beginning of a campaign. And I stress that point because the beginning of a campaign is the most crucial time to a Kickstarter. There's a really, really specific number of, initial backers that Kickstarter looks for within the first 72 hours that informs that algorithm and gets that project in front of the people that it needs to be in front of beyond the folks that already know about it. So there's a little bit of circular reasoning surrounding waiting to the end of a campaign just based on the logic that, well, someone else will back it. It's actually not what happens with most Kickstarter campaigns, and what keeps it successful is everybody jumping in on the beginning, because if everybody has the same thing, oh, somebody else will do it, you get to that end and it's not even hit that 20% mark yet, it's not going through. And the best part about that is simply because Kickstarter doesn't take any money from anybody until the campaign is done. So you're not losing anything. You're simply putting your name on a tally sheet, and you are the best tool and the best contributor as far as making yourself part of the project by doing that early, simply because you are telling that campaign that it has merit in its own right, and the fact that it's spoken to so many people early on is what gets it past that funding goal. So waiting to the end is almost the best way to make sure you don't get what you're so excited for, and it means that sometimes folks have to go back to the drawing board, even if it had strong reach at the beginning.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I every time we have somebody with a Kickstarter, I always make sure the audience knows, if you're unfamiliar with Kickstarter, you're not charged up front. It is only until at the end of the campaign, if the campaign reaches its funding goal. And the way that happens is to get those pledges in. If you know exactly what you want, go ahead, put your pledge in. You don't have to wait to the end. It's counterintuitive if you do. Please do it early and lock in that pledge. That way it helps the campaign, just like you said, and it shows other people like, hey, this really is gaining traction. Like, it's going to happen. There's always people that are out there that are like, I'm not going to pledge because it's not funded yet. Well, it's not funded because people like you are waiting.
Yes. And that's, it can sound harsh when you're in front of somebody who's not quite there yet, but if they haven't done it, they haven't done it. And that's that's what we're going to be stressing for the next several months. That is the best way to ensure that if you guys are excited about these pirate figures, that's the best way to do it, is the minute you know that it's live, go jump on, throw your name down. And that's absolutely what's going to inform the rest of the toy company that, hey, this is happening, get ready for it. And the best part about it is that it's not going to eat your wallet alive, because this isn't going to be half as expensive as anything that normally comes from this type of project anyway. Now, another priority that the creator is responsible for being transparent about is that funding goal, and making sure that that is as cost effective as possible, simply because, fans are not interested in looking at this ridiculous number that, or at least it may feel ridiculous to them, even if it's realistic in the production sense, because it makes that prize feel so much further away from them if that number is so large. That's what we saw with something like, despite the fact that I love that toy to pieces, thankfully not literally, the HasLab Unicron, it's just their reach was stretching it for that conversation. We've seen Hasbro do that a couple times. So you want to make sure that you are being as realistic and transparent as possible with your backers, and that it doesn't look like you're stretching your hand to the point of it, just for the sake of profits. You want to narrow it down to exactly what it requires to get that base set of tooling produced, and anything after the fact, is either going to go into those stretch goals that hopefully the campaign has, or back into the product anyway, into the next wave of the next series. That's the priority that we have anyway. And so that's why getting those numbers locked in the way we want to is such a priority, because we want to have them as close as humanly possible. Not because the campaign does not have the trajectory to overperform, but because we want folks that are looking at that goal to not feel like it's out of reach, despite the fact that it is the only way to make it happen.
Yeah, for sure. I can respect that. It sounds like you've done your homework here. You're not guessing at a lot of things. You seem like you've got a firm grasp on the numbers that you need, and you know what needs to be done. And I totally respect that.
Well, we appreciate it, because there's a lot of moving gears here, and I wish that we were on. It's just because I'm not a risk taker. I'm very much a planner by nature. I've got the next 8 hours already scheduled in my head. This is how it works. But You know, there's things that you can't move any faster than they do. That's part of what makes any industry what it is. Some things that won't make certain sense to, you know, even people just on the outside looking in. You know, why is this taking so long? What are all the ins and outs that make it take so long? Especially within the indie toy industry, if there's a delay, you can guarantee that there was a really good reason for it, and that the creators are even more angry about it than you are. Hopefully not taking it out on anybody while they're angry about it. But it's frustrating when you hit a wall, because you're just going to, even with something as what sounds simple as the tooling. Oh, great, we have the funds, shoot it off to the factory, they'll get working on the steel molds. It actually doesn't work quite like that, despite the fact that that is the written word for what has to happen. Then those experts at the factory have to figure out something very, very detailed, like this 18th barnacle that's on Charybdis's shin is just in the right place, that's making this tooling plate, you know, shift into just millimeters difference that we can't get this other piece on. You know, there's always going to be something, and it's not a linear line of thought, despite the fact that it could be. I had a good friend from the Animal Warriors of the Kingdom line, you know, describe it to me. It's not like having a Lego set. You pour it out, you got the instructions, and you put the pieces one at a time, and once you get that last piece on, you're done. It's more like having the instructions to the Lego set and then all the raw polymer, and you have to sculpt the Lego set by hand by yourself. So, you know, it's just not as instantaneous, and that dopamine hit that you're so wanting is going to have to be maintained by the creators and their marketing scheme all throughout that wait of production time to hopefully keep you fed, because we're in just as much of a state of anticipatory limbo as everyone else. But so long as you're doing what our priority is, and is maintaining that with people face to face the way you can, so that it doesn't seem inaccessible. There's nothing worse than having even a successful Kickstarter campaign and then blanking out on everybody and just going to your corner. And, you know, even if you're working on the project, it doesn't work to vanish. It's very concerning to people when they can't get a hold of you and they put all that hard-earned investment on their part into your project. So this is not a TED Talk for Kickstarter projects, but that's our priority, and that's what we want to maintain, is that people can reach us whenever necessary, no matter how small the question, even if it's the same question as always. How much longer are we waiting? If it sounds like,
are we there yet?
Dad, when are we there yet? It's going to be, we'll get there when we get there, but you don't want to sit there and stew in the corner and not answer the kid. You tell them we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Communication's definitely key.
Yeah. And that's our priority anyway. And the Horsemen are already really, really good about that. And so you have two main components here that are hopefully keeping people comfortable, despite the level of impatience that we'll be facing even after a successful campaign.
That's inevitable.
Yep. So, name of the game.
Is there anything that you would like to bring up and discuss? Maybe that
maybe we didn't talk about, or ask,
maybe,
or
yeah,
anything.
Certainly we didn't talk about. Maybe you don't get asked a lot on other shows or anything. Yeah. Is there anything that's like, man, nobody ever asks me this?
Everybody's actually really, it helps that hopefully anyway, it sounds like I have a semi-decent project pitch when folks are asking what all of this is about, because they come pretty naturally. And there's a little support section at the top of the website that has some of those most frequently asked questions. And it's actually really fun that, at least in this live stream, I've been answering different questions as is. So you guys have been doing a pretty darn good job. I think I mentioned it just briefly earlier, but one of the things that we really want to make sure people are aware of over the next couple of months is we, of course, are going to have as much supplemental content as possible as we lead up to this, just to, of course, keep the thing in the public eye, and have new things for people to dissect. But that story content is so very integral to what makes this line what it is, and we only have so many ways of presenting it to people. And that earlier mentioned audiobook is what's kind of going to be the culmination of the theatrical experience of what makes this story what it is. There's so many details that are not on that website that are only going to be able to be found in the middle of that segmented audiobook, and that's something that we're still recording currently and working very diligently on. It's just as much work as making a movie, because this is not meant to be just somebody sits down and reads a book to you. This is meant to be an audio experience. There's music, sound effects, aside from the the limited amount of visuals that we're able to provide just with the budget we've got. We have that amazing talent at Edge Comics, and Dimitri's facilitating things as he can, and those are the assets we've got. But we want to make sure that people are very, very aware of that audiobook, because it's something that is going to be intrinsic to the campaign. It's something that there's no paywall. This is what we want people to have access to. It will only be on YouTube, but we want people to know that it's happening so that they can go there and expect it. If not every day during the campaign, every other day. It's going to depend on how much we're able to get done by the time we're releasing the Kickstarter itself, because there's a ton of story content, and we have to pick a spot where we're going to stop, or we're going to tell years 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's not going to work. So we have to pick where year 1 subsides for the point. And there's we're going to make some people mad, because it's going to be a pretty good cliffhanger, but this is all being done in studio by hand, and it's something that's our last gift to the fan base that we're able to give outside of having a successful production run and getting these figures to people. And we just want to send home the fact that that is happening. That's something to expect, and it's something that people can look forward to enjoying while they're putting their names down.
Yeah, that's definitely sounded the most it stood out to me. I was just like, oh, nice. That's going to be cool.
It's something
it sounds very much like a no sleep podcast.
Yeah.
Only pirates.
Very much so. And I think each chapter is probably going to be, we want to make it digestible. It's not going to be, you go to work and you turn Tide Realm Corsairs on, and that's what gets you through your shift. Probably not. It might make your shift worse, because it's 15, maybe 20 minutes, and you're left on some terrible cliffhanger that's sending you into spirals for the rest of the night, and then you have to wait another day or so, and it'll be but our intention with it is to hopefully make that the stretch during a campaign is so torturous, specifically for a creator, because you get your initial few day surge, and then you get that lull between the 30 days, which you would rather avoid. You'd rather keep it steady, and some campaigns can maintain it, and sometimes just don't. It's not for lack of trying. And then you get those last 3 or 4 days, and you get that surge at the end as well. Well, we want things for people to be looking forward to in the middle of that campaign. And there's going to be certain aspects of the story that, reveal some specific trait that these 3 figures already possess. That's, hopefully going to make somebody even more excited about getting them if they were on the fence for the first 2 weeks, because the story is spelling out what makes these guys so very unique. And so I'm just because it's something that I'm still working on. I'm having to get in the habit of making sure people are aware. And so this is that plug for this time round, because it's real, it's happening, and that's something that it's not a stretch goal. This is just what we want the fan base to have.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's awesome.
There's definitely a ton of information that we didn't even scratch the surface on that website. As soon as you said there was a section at the top of the site, I went right back to my tab and scrolled all the way back up and clicked on something, and it brought a whole bunch of other stuff up. I'm going, oh my God, look at this.
There's a ton there.
For sure, go to that website, check it out. It's again, TideRealmCorsairs.com.
I'll admit I was taken back. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad we're getting to talk to this person for sure.
I just scrolled the landing page. Like, I didn't click anything. I'm going, oh my God, look at all of this.
Right. You get so distracted by those pretty action figures. You're like, what the hell? There's a pretty website here too. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, seriously. There's a lot of stuff there.
Well, I'm glad that you guys have, reading material for hopefully the next couple of weeks, because there's a lot there, and my wife and I have put our heart and souls into everything that's presented there. And it's just the fact that it looks like there's such an overwhelming amount of content, it doesn't even scratch the surface of what we have going on in the background. And so hopefully that now that's all that culminates to say that there's so much going on here in the background that we have intentions, and not just the intentions, but the resources to keep people fed in this world for years and years and years to come. And that's what we want to stress, that folks are investing in here. It's not just wave one, it's this world and this hopefully renewable resource that will continue to give for years and years to come. It's not just because we want to make toys for the rest of our lives. We do, but we also want this theme to be sustainable, and we want this torch to be carried long enough that the pirate genre as a whole continues to saturate the toy realm. And in 2035, just like 1985, everybody can go and jump into a plethora of examples of what makes this theme as cool as it is, just like we already see with other indie toy creators.
Absolutely.
So where else can people go? I know you've got a Facebook group, right? There's a Facebook group dedicated to your stuff already.
Yes, so the website is your best resource for, getting all the information you possibly can about the company and the toy line at large. But if you're looking for, fan engagement and, continual exposure to story content in more digestible sizes, there's the Instagram page, which has been probably our strongest resource, and that should be at Corsair Creations, if not at Corsair Creations Co. And then it's the same thing on Facebook. That should be Corsair Creations, Tide Realm Corsair's toy line is what that page is called. And then there is within that a group that is called the Tide Realm Corsairs for folks to join, and that's a more intimate fan engagement. As far as we're very much cultivating something similar to the Cabal. We have a lot of longtime Cabal members already in there. Half of our production team is already in there. Precisely. And that should be, I think that's pinned on the Facebook page. Like, you have a link to the website, and then you also have a link to the Facebook group if you want to join that. There's almost 400 members in there now, I think. And most of you can guarantee that cross-platform, if you see it one place, you're gonna see it in the other place. And so everything's very synergistic as far as the information release. But the Facebook group is the best place where you can go and intermingle with the creators of the page, and sometimes even run into one of the horsemen if they're paying attention.
Yes.
Which is maybe predatory on the part of the fans, but I think that's kind of how the Cabal functions already. So.
You never know who you're going to run into.
Nope, you don't. And you guarantee you're always going to run into somebody cool. We've already got some folks that threw in some of their pirate customs, and there's more stuff to look at in the Facebook group than there is just in our advertising. There's some cool things that people are doing. And we've met such absolutely wonderful people within the community. Of everybody that stepped up to the booth at Legion's Con just graced us with their presence because they were already so invested in what was going on. That was what was surprising, is how many people already knew who we were. It was a dream come true to be there at all. That was very much on the part of the horsemen, because they're packed. That venue's packed. It's very special to be there in the first place. And we had, despite the fact that we were in the hallway, which sounds like, kind of it sounds like they've bumped you to the back.
Everywhere.
Right. They haven't bumped you anywhere. It was an absolutely wonderful place to be. And it was really fun to be the breath of fresh air that everyone would come out of the, BO drenched area that was the main floor, and come into the hallway, and here's the salty seawater of Tide Realms is right on the outside of the hallway, and we didn't have to do the continual noise on the inside. It's such a wonderful event, and it's a cacophony of sound.
Yeah.
I can only imagine. Never been myself, so maybe one day.
I can not recommend it enough, despite the fact that it was the most exhausting experience of our lives. We also had to travel 1,000 miles to do it, so it was a little bit different. If you're going there for leisure, you're probably going to have, we went there for work. The fun we had was the fun we had. But if you're going there to have fun, you will have fun. You're also going to leave very broke.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Yeah. Well, me being who I am, I'm like, leisure's out of the question for me. I'd get roped into something. I know. I'm like,
right.
Are you serious?
There's nothing that you can't imagine that someone hasn't, if somebody isn't selling a toy that's just been made of that, you're going to find some customizer who's probably going to,
oh, yeah.
Well, they won't have to rope you into anything, because if you're smart enough to walk past and stop and get it, because that's the only chance you're going to have it, you walk away and someone else is going to have it.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm the one that's usually making the customs, so people come and
right.
get that kind of stuff from me.
Yeah.
So I know what you mean.
Precisely.
I would probably, walk by and they'd realize who I was, because I go by Zombie or Zombie 13 in the community or whatever. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows. Well, most everybody knows. They'd probably grab and go, "Oh my God, watch my table! I've got to go do this." I'm like, okay.
Precisely. Yep.
That
was the miracle of the whole event, was the fact that we, our life savings are on the table. We don't have money for food. We don't. Yeah. And people fed us. They just took care of us, and it was the most wonderful experience ever.
That community is among the best out there, hands down.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's one of the main reasons we feel so very confident, despite how nerve-wracking it's always going to be. I'll go to bed tonight and still lie awake staring at the ceiling. Is anybody going to buy my pirates? And then wake up and do the same thing all over again. But we have such a great support system already, despite how self-contained it is. And I have no doubt that this is going to go somewhere good.
Well, you've definitely got a buyer in me. So like I said, I'm all in. I'm going to sign up. As soon as I see the Kickstarter, preview, whatever they call it, I'm going to be like, yep, notify me. I want to know.
Yeah.
I'm like,
get that landing page up.
Yep. I'm going to put the pledge in day one.
It's been really fun talking to people, seeing how many people. We've got one guy who's, to turn my good buddy, Dave, he'll know what I'm talking about. He's like, you guys are going to have to fight me tooth and nail for the single digit numbers on day one backers. And I'm like, you better move fast, Dave.
Well, I don't know if I'll be in single numbers, but as soon as I see it, I'm going straight to it.
If all goes according to plan, maybe they'll break the landing page. Let's hope.
Yeah, maybe I'll be awesome. Number 13. Who knows?
I feel like that's a good goal.
We'll see.
I appreciate you guys so very, very much. I do have to get going for the rest of the evening, but I'm so very, very glad to have been here and to been able to share this with you guys. And I'm glad that I'm able to give of myself like this, because it's not just a product line, despite the fact that we can be that superficial. You guys are here for the toys. That's what you're after. But the fact that I can give of myself like that and share a story that hopefully is giving you guys even more of an experience with the action figure than just the object itself is something that there's a level of specialness that we would like to imbue those products with. And that relationship is the most we can give, since we're out of money.
Well, we'll see about getting you some more money.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome. And I'm very, very,
thanks for coming on, Coy. It was
absolutely
a blast.
Yep.
I'm so glad that the blast could come from me instead of the cannon fire. That's for later.
Nice.
Well, thanks again so much. And we'll be updating and sharing with our folks as we get more news from you guys and all that. And you're welcome to come back on later on if you have a slump where you can. You're more than welcome to come back on and to help push the second half of the campaign or whatnot.
Absolutely.
Hopefully you won't have to worry about that, but the offer is still extended anyway. So
I appreciate you guys very, very much. If possible, we'd love to do as many of these things as possible during the campaign. And so I'd love to be right then in there while hopefully that audiobook is on autopilot while I'm talking to you guys.
Right. Well,
thank you guys so very, very much.
And anytime, like I said, take care.
You too. You guys have a fantastic night. Thank you for everybody who came by to watch. I will see you guys again soon.
Yep. We'll see you later. All right. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
I'm good. Take us out.
All right. Coming up on the horizon, we will have Friday. ADHD Theater, and we're going to be talking about 2 Bill Murray movies, Meatballs and Stripes. And yeah, so we're going to be hanging out. And like I said, until next time, Thunder Nerds Ho.